It's almost cruel how it works. The more you try, the further it slips. You visualize harder, affirm louder, and watch the clock tick slower. You start to feel like the universe is ghosting you. It's that silent ache. What else am I missing? We've been taught to push reality like a door that's jammed. Press harder, think stronger, do more. But manifestation doesn't respond to force. It responds to fit. And that's the part nobody explains. Because what if it's not about doing another ritual or scripting another future? What if your signal is already broadcasting perfectly, but you're tuned to the wrong frequency? Like trying to hear your favorite song while the dial's stuck between stations full of static. That's why this isn't about months of mindset work or endless affirmations. It's about a 10-second adjustment, a shift in the way your energy holds itself in this exact moment. And when it clicks, the resistance dissolves. Not because you convinced the universe, but because you stopped fighting your own signal. You can feel it even now when you stop gripping for half a breath. That drop in the body, that moment when your shoulders loosen and the noise inside fades. That's the entry point. The field doesn't need your control. It needs your coherence. In this space, creation stops being personal effort and starts being resonance. You stop trying to make it happen, and reality begins to mirror the version of you that no longer doubts it's safe to receive. And that's where the 10-second reset comes in. Not a trick, not a hack, but a return to your natural broadcast. The field always matches you. The question is, which you is it hearing right now? Think of yourself as a transmitter, a living signal tower that constantly emits information through emotion, posture, and thought. Every gesture, every internal image, every heartbeat is a frequency that the field interprets instantly. The universe doesn't read your sentences, it reads your state. That's why the 10-second adjustment works. It's not mental, it's vibrational. Most people keep trying to manifest from the level of thought, saying the words, picturing the goal, repeating the affirmation. But thought alone is like moving your mouth on a radio that's unplugged. The sound doesn't travel anywhere. What actually tunes the signal is embodiment, the way your nervous system, muscles, and breathing organize around what you believe is true. When you try to manifest, you're often broadcasting the vibration of trying. That frequency says, it's not here yet, but I'm pushing. And the field reflects that tension perfectly. The 10-second shift interrupts that loop. Here's how it works. When you catch yourself forcing, tightening your jaw, holding your breath, mentally chasing the outcome, you stop. You feel your feet. You exhale fully. You imagine your awareness dropping from your forehead to your chest, like a gentle descent into the body. 10 seconds of presence. No fixing, no pushing, just aligning. In that moment, your entire electromagnetic pattern reorganizes. The brain's beta noise slows. The heart field expands. Coherence begins to form, a measurable rhythm where mind and body hum on the same frequency. This is what quantum manifestation actually responds to. The moment you become internally synchronized with what you're asking for. It's not magic, it's physics and biology cooperating. When the observer, that conscious presence behind your thoughts, relaxes into coherence, the wave of potential around you collapses differently. Possibilities start aligning with that relaxed frequency. Here's the irony. You've been trying to attract peace, certainty, and flow, while your internal broadcast was tension, lack, and control. The universe wasn't ignoring you. It was simply agreeing with your most consistent vibration. And the beauty of this is how fast it changes. You don't need a long process. Just one clean moment of attunement can reset the field. But that realization opens up a deeper truth, one most people resist because it threatens the idea of control itself. Because if you're not meant to force, then what is your role in creation? Here's the biggest misunderstanding in manifestation. People think their job is to make things happen. They treat the universe like a stubborn machine. Input enough effort, and eventually it spits out results. But manifestation is not a vending machine. It's a mirror. It can't give you what you force. It can only reflect what you embody. Let's take a real moment. You've been waiting for that message. Maybe from a person you care about. Maybe from a job. Maybe from an opportunity that feels overdue. You check your phone every few minutes. You rehearse possible replies in your mind, almost vibrating with tension. It's subtle, but your body's broadcasting lack. Where is it? Why hasn't it happened? That frequency is static. Now, imagine instead of spiraling into overthinking, you pause. 10 seconds. You breathe out the grip. You let your awareness settle down into your body. You sense the weight of your feet, the warmth of your chest, the rhythm of your breath. You remember, the field responds to coherence, not craving. As that energy softens, something extraordinary happens. Your body begins to emit safety. You're no longer signaling, "I'm waiting," you're signaling, "I'm ready." That one adjustment, the release of urgency, shifts your magnetic signature. The very same reality that was reflecting absence now starts reorganizing around your availability. The myth of manifesting by force dies the moment you feel how alignment replaces strain. The quantum field doesn't require pressure to respond. It requires precision. And precision comes from stillness. You've probably felt this before without realizing it. That moment when you stop caring if the text arrives, and 5 minutes later, it does. That instance when you give up chasing a solution, and suddenly the right answer appears. The logic mind calls it coincidence, but the deeper mechanism is resonance. You stopped broadcasting conflict, so the field no longer had to mirror it. And that's why the 10-second adjustment is so powerful. It bypasses all the intellectual noise and tunes you directly into your embodied frequency. You stop transmitting "not yet" and start transmitting "it's safe now." But to make that shift permanent, you have to understand the real gatekeeper, the one that decides whether your energy is open enough to let reality rearrange itself. It's not your thoughts, not even your emotions. It's something more primal, more physical, and completely misunderstood in manifestation circles. It's your nervous system, and it's the hidden bridge between your signal and the field itself. Every manifestation begins, or breaks, in the nervous system. That's where your signal is either clean or distorted. You can't broadcast abundance through a body braced for threat. You can't tune to love while your biology screams, "unsafe." The quantum field listens not to your affirmations, but to your regulation. Think about it. Every time you force, control, or overanalyze, your body tightens. Shoulders rise, breath shortens, your system slips into survival. And survival mode has one job: to protect, not to create. It keeps your energy looping through familiar patterns because anything unfamiliar, even if it's what you desire, feels unsafe to the body. So the 10-second adjustment isn't about pretending to relax. It's about teaching your system that safety and receiving can coexist. That's the real alchemy. Here's a practice. Wherever you are, pause. Drop your awareness to your lower body. Feel your sit bones or your feet grounding into the surface beneath you. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Hold gently for 2. Exhale through your mouth for 6. Now imagine the exhale as a slow release, a wave leaving your body, carrying tension out with it. Do this twice more. With each breath, sense your chest expand slightly, your jaw unclench, your eyes soften. You're signaling safety. And when safety arrives, coherence follows. Coherence is when your heart and brain move in rhythm, an invisible harmony, measurable in electromagnetic waves. It's the physical signature of alignment. In that rhythm, your thoughts stop arguing with your emotions, and your body stops blocking your intentions. Suddenly, manifestation feels less like making it happen and more like being carried. This is the real secret behind the observer effect. A regulated observer perceives differently. When you're safe inside your own body, you stop observing from fear and start observing from presence. And that alone collapses reality differently. You're no longer watching for what could go wrong. You're seeing what's already unfolding right. The reason this feels like magic is because most people never allow that baseline of safety long enough to let coherence stabilize. They ping-pong between control and collapse. But when you maintain that 10-second alignment multiple times a day, your entire energetic field begins to normalize to calm. And calm is magnetic. Now you might think, if I can feel coherent for a moment, why doesn't it last? That's where the next layer begins. The difference between a temporary state and an embodied identity. Because the universe doesn't mirror moments. It mirrors who you keep being. A state is temporary. It's the emotion that moves through you, the vibe you access during meditation, the brief calm after a breath. But an identity, that's the baseline frequency your entire field returns to without effort. It's the you the universe recognizes even when you're not trying. Most people try to manifest by chasing states, moments of high energy, bursts of confidence, waves of gratitude. They work until life nudges you and the frequency collapses. Then you wonder why results keep resetting. The truth is, the field doesn't calibrate to your peaks. It calibrates to your pattern. The difference between the two can be subtle, but everything depends on it. A state says, I feel abundant right now. An identity says, I am someone abundance feels natural around. The first demands maintenance, the second becomes automatic. So how does this connect to the 10-second adjustment? Each time you drop from mental control into embodied presence, you're teaching your body a new normal. You're rehearsing the feeling of safety, the vibration of enoughness, until it becomes familiar enough that your system identifies with it. That's how state turns into identity. Let's say money has always triggered pressure for you. You affirm abundance, visualize, journal. But the second a bill arrives, your chest tightens. That's your identity defending an old timeline. Money equals danger. When you apply the 10-second shift in that exact moment, breathing, grounding, letting your shoulders release, you rewire the association. You're showing your body, we can feel safe even here. Over time, that becomes who you are. And here's the twist. Once identity shifts, manifestation stops being episodic. You don't have to call things in. They arrive naturally because they match your new baseline. You stop searching for evidence and start noticing alignment everywhere. Think of it like this. If the field is a mirror, your reflection doesn't appear because you force it. It appears because you've stepped fully into view. Identity is that view, the coherent self-image that reality copies without resistance. But identity doesn't just change your relationship with the present. It changes which timeline you exist on altogether, because each version of you already exists somewhere in the field, living a completely different sequence of events. And the moment your frequency matches theirs, you don't attract that life. You shift into it. Here's the part that blows the mind and steadies the heart at the same time. You're not moving toward your manifestations. You're moving between versions of yourself that already exist. Each identity lives on its own timeline, broadcasting its own station in the quantum field. Think of it like flipping through radio frequencies. Each one is already playing a full song, a full life, but you can only hear the one you're tuned to. The struggling self, the thriving self, the one still waiting and the one already living it, all broadcasting simultaneously. You don't change the song by yelling at the radio. You change it by adjusting the dial. Identity is that dial. When you embody a new frequency, not as a performance but as a nervous system truth, the universe doesn't need to deliver anything. It simply reveals the timeline that matches your new vibration. It's a subtle but radical shift from trying to manifest to realizing which self you've been tuned to all along. Let's make this real with a scenario. Imagine someone who's been hunting for a new job. They send applications, visualize success, even script gratitude for the perfect opportunity. But beneath all that, their energy whispers, "I'm still not enough." That's the frequency the field hears. So they keep encountering versions of reality that confirm it, interviews that stall, emails that go unanswered, timelines where effort outweighs reward. Now one day they pause, 10 seconds, they ground, breathe, and feel their posture shift. Instead of asking, "When will they see my worth?" they begin broadcasting, "I already bring value wherever I go." Their nervous system relaxes. That's the moment their dial clicks into a different station, the timeline where confidence and ease are normal. 2 weeks later, they walk into an interview and feel instant resonance. Same person, new frequency. The outcome aligns because the timeline does. The key is understanding that shifting timelines doesn't require big external actions. It requires energetic fidelity, staying tuned to the identity that matches the life you prefer, especially when the old one calls you back. That's where practice becomes power, because every time you hold that frequency a little longer, you stabilize the new reality a little more. And the next step is learning how to rehearse this alignment deliberately, to train your body to recognize the signal of the desired timeline so clearly that returning to it becomes effortless. That's where your toolkit begins. Shifting identity isn't a single leap. It's a muscle you train until coherence becomes second nature. And the 10-second adjustment is the foundation, but to make it stick, you need a few tools that turn awareness into embodiment. Think of them as small tuning practices that help your frequency hold steady even when life tests it. The first is what I call a bridge statement. It's not an affirmation you repeat blindly. It's a phrase that links where you are to where you're going without creating inner resistance. For example, instead of saying "I'm rich" when your body flinches at the disbelief, try "I'm learning how to feel safe with more." That sentence carries coherence because it feels true now. It builds the bridge across emotional honesty. The second is a somatic anchor, a physical cue that your body associates with your desired state. Maybe it's a hand on your chest, a subtle shoulder drop, or the way you breathe before something meaningful. The goal isn't performance, it's programming safety into the signal. Over time, your body learns that abundance, love, or success feels familiar instead of foreign. Third, use microvisuals, not cinematic daydreams, but 3-second snapshots of embodiment. Picture yourself opening an email calmly, seeing your name in the contract header, feeling that deep exhale of certainty. Then stop. Don't fantasize beyond it. Let your body memorize the sensation, not just the image. That's the data the field reads. Finally, use temporal rehearsal. Throughout the day, pause and ask, which version of me is acting right now? The one forcing or the one aligned? That single question snaps your awareness back to the station you want to broadcast from. When you practice these tools, you're not creating a new vibration. You're stabilizing the one that's already there, but buried under noise. You're teaching your system how to stay coherent when reality still shows the old reflection. And the wild thing? You don't have to do this perfectly. The field doesn't demand purity. It responds to consistency. Each small act of coherence compounds until the old signal can't hold you anymore. Have you noticed that the moment you stop gripping, what you wanted finally shows up? Tell me your story in the comments. It might unlock someone else's leap. Because once you start practicing this way, you'll see that the biggest obstacles aren't out there at all. They live inside the tiny habits that split your signal without you realizing it. Urgency, self-doubt, and over-control. And each one can be transmuted into power. Let's be honest, even when you know how to align, life keeps testing the edges of your signal. Urgency, doubt, and the need to control sneak back in like static on the dial. These three are the core distortions that blur your broadcast, but once you understand their mechanics, you can turn each into fuel. The first trap is urgency, that inner rush that says, it has to happen now. Urgency feels like momentum, but it's actually fear in disguise. It's the body trying to outrun discomfort. When you rush, you collapse presence. You stop tuning, and the field mirrors back chaos. The antidote is paradoxical. Slowness creates speed. Each time urgency spikes, take those 10 seconds to ground and breathe slower than feels natural. The slower your body moves, the faster reality reorganizes because you've returned to coherence. The second is split signals. This happens when your mind says, I'm ready, but your energy whispers, I'm scared. You affirm one timeline while your body anchors another. The universe can't decode mixed frequencies. It mirrors both, giving you progress and pullback at the same time. The key isn't to suppress fear, but to integrate it. When you notice inner conflict, say quietly, it's safe to want this and still feel unsure. That statement harmonizes the vibration instead of forcing alignment through denial. The third distortion is over-control. You start tracking outcomes like a scientist measuring plants every minute to see if they've grown. Control is the symptom of distrust, not in the universe, but in your own signal. The remedy? Surrendered precision. You keep your vision clear but release the root. The field always finds the most efficient timeline when you stop micromanaging its choreography. Each of these distortions shows up because your system wants proof before relaxing. But proof can't precede belief. It follows it. Every time you regulate instead of react, you're teaching your subconscious that safety exists even without certainty. That's when the signal strengthens. So instead of seeing these obstacles as setbacks, treat them as recalibration points, opportunities to deepen your frequency fidelity. Every moment of urgency, doubt, or control is just a chance to reattune the dial. And when that becomes your daily rhythm, something shifts quietly but profoundly. You stop waiting for manifestation sessions and start living in coherence. The question then becomes, how do you sustain that alignment inside the noise of everyday life when there's traffic, messages, deadlines, and distractions pulling at your focus from every side? Because that's where real mastery begins. True manifestation doesn't happen in silence or on a meditation cushion. It happens while you're brushing your teeth, opening an email, or walking down a crowded street. Those are the real portals, the ordinary moments where you either stay in coherence or slip back into the old broadcast. The art is not in controlling every thought, but in weaving presence through your daily rhythm. When you wake up, before your mind rushes to tasks, take that 10-second descent. Awareness dropping from your head to your chest. Let your first breath set your frequency before your phone does. When you eat, do it as if your body is already living the timeline you're calling in. Taste fully. Slow down. Coherence thrives in awareness. When you walk, feel the ground as if every step confirms that you're supported. Reality listens to how your feet land. Even in conversation, you can practice. Instead of trying to impress, you listen from stillness. That grounded energy transmits safety, and people feel it immediately. You start noticing how coherence changes social dynamics. Suddenly, others soften around you without knowing why. You're literally tuning the room. And in moments of stress, bills, delays, silence after a message, that's when embodiment becomes alchemy. The old frequency will want to react, but you've trained the body now. You breathe, ground, and choose to respond from the identity that already has what you desire. That's the quiet power that bends timelines. This isn't about becoming perfectly aligned all day. It's about making coherence your baseline again and again, until reality has no choice but to match it. The 10-second reset becomes invisible, automatic. Eventually, you won't even call it manifestation. It will just feel like life working. And here's the beautiful side effect. Once you begin living like this, the small wins compound. You notice synchronicities, ease, spontaneous support. Things begin flowing without ceremony. Because the field recognizes stability, it rewards consistency more than intensity. But something happens after that. Once daily coherence becomes natural, the energy that once went into survival starts expanding outward. You begin to feel a pull, not just to create personal outcomes, but to influence larger fields, relationships, purpose, health, creativity. That expansion isn't about getting more. It's about broadcasting farther. Because a coherent signal doesn't stop with your own timeline. It starts reordering everything it touches. Once coherence stabilizes, the signal doesn't just transform your personal outcomes. It begins to radiate outward, shaping entire fields around you. Your relationships, creativity, health, even your sense of purpose start reorganizing to match your new frequency. It's not that people suddenly change, it's that you begin to meet versions of them who already exist on your new station. You've probably felt this in small ways. When you're centered, someone who usually drains you suddenly feels lighter. When you stop trying to prove your worth, opportunities appear without chasing. This isn't coincidence, it's resonance. Coherence doesn't stop at your skin. It's an electromagnetic ripple that interacts with every field around you. Take creativity, for instance. Imagine an artist stuck in a block, staring at the blank canvas, frustrated, forcing inspiration. The energy is tight, the frequency chaotic. Then she takes that 10-second descent, grounds into her body, releases the pressure to produce, and reconnects with presence. Suddenly, the brush moves again. Flow returns. Nothing external changed, only the signal did. Or picture a relationship that keeps looping in miscommunication. Each person is defending, reacting, proving. When one person practices coherence, softens the breath, regulates before responding, the tone shifts instantly. Words land differently. The entire timeline of the relationship begins to move toward harmony without needing both people to work on it. The coherent field leads. The same applies to health. Chronic tension patterns begin dissolving once the nervous system stops bracing for imaginary futures. The body starts reallocating energy from defense to repair. You don't heal by commanding your cells, you heal by changing the broadcast they follow. And purpose, it stops feeling like something defined. You realize it's what naturally flows through a regulated system. When your frequency is clear, life uses you more directly. Synchronicities multiply because you've become a stable signal the universe can build around. The expansion phase isn't louder or faster. It's quieter, more precise. You stop needing proof because you are the proof. The evidence keeps appearing through ease, through the simplicity of things working without force. But there's one more layer beneath even that. The moment you recognize that this whole process isn't about personal manifestation at all, it's about merging with the intelligence that's been guiding the entire field from the start, the part of you that's never been separate from what it's trying to create. That's the real surrender, and the final dimension of power. At some point in this journey, something clicks. It was never you making reality move. You were never the controller. You were the conduit. The field doesn't bend to your will. It reveals through your alignment. And that realization feels less like losing power and more like finally exhaling after lifetimes of effort. When you drop into coherence often enough, you start to sense a presence inside the stillness, a subtle intelligence orchestrating synchronicities, conversations, timing. It's the same force that grows trees and spins galaxies, now flowing through your nervous system like light through a wire. That's when manifestation turns into communion. You're no longer speaking to the universe. You're speaking as it. This is where surrender transforms from weakness into mastery. It's not giving up. It's giving over to the larger coherence that always knew the way. The mind's job is to choose direction. The field's job is to handle delivery. When you stop micromanaging the route, reality starts expressing its own brilliance through you. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop insisting on control, your influence expands exponentially. Because your energy stops fragmenting into how and when. You become pure signal. You radiate trust. And that frequency bends timelines faster than any strategy ever could. Some call this co-creation. Others call it prayer, or flow, or grace. Labels don't matter. What matters is the felt sense that something beyond your individual self is weaving reality with you, and it's been waiting for your permission to take the lead. At this stage, the 10-second adjustment becomes sacred, not just a nervous system reset, but a daily reunion with that intelligence. Each exhale whispers, "I don't have to hold it all." Each pause reopens the channel. You realize manifestation isn't about summoning something new, but remembering what's already orchestrated in your favor. Even challenges shift meaning. Delays become timing recalibrations. Losses become redirections. You start to see that the universe isn't testing you, it's syncing you. And every time you choose coherence over control, you step deeper into that partnership. What began as a practice of calming your system becomes a spiritual recognition. You are not separate from the field. You are the field, momentarily pretending to forget. And once that remembrance anchors, only one question remains. How do you live from that knowing every day, without losing the simplicity that started it all? That's where everything comes full circle. It all comes back to that small, quiet moment. 10 seconds of release that rewires everything. No chanting, no grasping, no cosmic negotiation. Just you, the field, and a breath deep enough to remind the universe who you actually are. Because what you've been chasing was never distant. It was always mirrored right here, waiting for your frequency to match it. Every time you stop forcing, the reflection clears. Every time you relax into safety, the static fades. And every time you breathe like you already belong where you're going, reality can finally catch up. This is the paradox that sets you free. You don't manifest by commanding reality. You manifest by becoming coherent with it, not with force, with frequency. The field is a perfect listener. It doesn't need persuasion, only precision. And coherence is the purest precision there is. So the next time you catch yourself gripping for proof, pause, feel your body, drop the awareness from your head into your chest. 10 seconds. That's it. Watch how quickly life begins to rearrange when you stop shouting at the mirror and start standing clearly before it. You are not behind. You are not late. You are simply tuning. And as you stabilize that signal, life stops being a battle of effort and starts becoming a dialogue of resonance. Imagine waking up tomorrow and moving through your day, not as someone trying to make it happen, but as someone who already belongs in the reality they desire. That's the shift the universe has been waiting for. Have you noticed that the moment you truly relax, what you wanted finds its way to you without warning? Share that moment in the comments. Your story might be the reminder someone else needs to let go and let their field finally click into place. Because when you stop forcing, everything starts responding.